let me take you back in time to 2016. This was the first year where Marvel and Warner Brothers / DC first went head-to-head. Disney was releasing Captain America Civil War, Warner's was releasing Batman v Superman. And in the aftermath of this box office battle, Marvel came out on top by a landslide. They both financially and critically outperformed Warner Brothers, just left them in the dust already. People were already saying that that battle was won in the first round. And it was during that year that I had this wonderful conversation with my cousin Ray and one of my closest and best friends, Joshua Brott, and they were asking me why I thought Marvel kept succeeding and Warner Brothers / DC just kept falling on their face. First, Man of Steel was a movie that didn't go over very well with the fans, and now this. Marvel outperforming a movie that had the first cinematic encounter between Batman and Superman, the two most famous superheroes of all time. And my answer in 2016 was simply that Marvel focuses solely on the characters. At the time, with only 2 movies under their belt, the DCEU's focus was all over the goddamn place, but not on getting their characters over. Not even Superman, not even Batman. Okay? And the example that I gave to illustrate my point was simply comparing the cinematic trajectories of Loki and the DCEU Batman. At that time, Loki had been in 3 movies. 3! And he was already one of the most popular characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So much so that everybody knew for a fact, without having any information about the film, everybody knew for a fact that he was going to be in the 3rd Thor movie. We didn't even know the title of that movie at the time, and we knew with absolute certainty he was going to be in that movie. And yet still, to this day, people still can't agree whether or not Ben Affleck was the right choice to play Batman. He wasn't, but that's besides the point. Now, if you feel otherwise, that's okay. I'm calling a truce. I think we can all agree that Ben Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms. Phantoms like a motherfucker. Anyway, so, Loki, this character that was one of the least popular and most forgettable villains from the comics, somehow transformed into one of the most popular characters in this film franchise, the biggest franchise in the world right now. Only possibly 3rd in the list of most popular MCU characters, only 3rd to Iron Man and Captain America. And at that time, Ray and Josh asked me, what do you think is going to happen with this character? How far do you think they can take it? And I said it was 100% possible that Loki was eventually going to have his own film franchise, to which they laughed. And I said, I'm telling you, after the 3rd Thor movie, Thor is not going to pass his hammer to Beta Ray Bill. He's not going to pass his hammer to Thunderstrike. He's not going to pass his hammer to Jane Foster. He's going to pass it to Loki. He's going to pass the torch to Loki. Loki's going to take over the franchise, and he's going to have his own movies. Now, I was both wrong and I was right. He is passing the hammer, the torch to Jane Foster, which is awesome. Looking forward to that. And Loki didn't get his own film franchise, but he got his own streaming series on one of the biggest streaming services around right now. which in a lot of ways, it's even bigger. And what I think is hilarious is that even at this point, today, there are still people that are baffled as to why this character got so popular, a villain got so freaking popular to get to this level. And for those of you who are confused, I'll break it down for you very easily and why people love Loki so much. So imagine for a moment that you're Loki and Thor is your brother, and you're both born into an environment in which you are told that you are equals. You're the princess of Asgard. You are equals, everything's great, but we have this magical hammer that can give you the power of flight and the power to throw thunderbolts, and it belongs to Thor. He's the one who's worthy, not you. Thor is worthy. Oh, and by the way, you're both princess of Asgard, but Thor gets the throne, not you, not Loki. Oh, by the way, Thor messed up. We're going to vanish him. We're going to send him to Midgard. And Thor gets his powers taken away, his hammer taken away, he gets thrown to Midgard, and he basically lands in Natalie Portman's lap. Super gorgeous Natalie Portman's lap. Boom, instant girlfriend. He gets shelter immediately. He gets taken in by Jane Foster. They buy him breakfast. By the way, Thor needs help getting his hammer back. Let's help him get his hammer back, even though we barely know this guy. Thor dies and gets his powers back. Thor goes back to Earth, immediately makes friends with superpowers, immediately gets welcomed into the top secret SHIELD helicarrier, immediately gets made an Avenger. And what does Loki get? Anybody who has ever felt passed over unfairly relates to Loki. Nobody relates to the Ben Affleck Batman. He's an insane, revenge-driven character that sometimes kills without reason. Loki kills with reason, and his bedside manner leaves very little to be desired, but people still get it. They 100% understand his motivation, and even though he's a horrible bastard, they sympathize with him. And that's why Loki is the character that he is. That's why he has been included in every Thor movie, even after he fell to his death in the first one. That's why he remained the villain in the first Avengers movie, even though there were talks about having multiple villains in that movie. He was the one and only singular villain in that film, and that's why he has a streaming series today. And that's why, when promoting Thor the Dark World, Loki took over Hall H at Comic-Con, and nobody batted an eyelash. It felt perfectly normal for that to be the character that represented the biggest franchise in entertainment today.
Say my name. Say my name. Say my name! Say my name!
So let's talk about his show. Thank you for bearing with me through that elaborate intro, but the trajectory of this character is so crazy, it's so mind-boggling, you have to highlight it. Now, before I talk about the first episode, about the premiere episode of Loki's streaming series entitled Glorious Purpose, which is very fitting after the speech that I just gave, a couple of disclaimers. Number one, there are spoilers ahead. So if you haven't seen the first episode of Loki, the series, Glorious Purpose, stop the video here, go check it out on Disney+, then please come back, check out my video, listen to my ridiculous thoughts on the matter. Also, second disclaimer, obviously, my opinions are based solely on this first episode. My feelings and opinions about this show might change by the end of the season, alright? Which I will share those thoughts. Where will I share those thoughts? Hold on until the end of the video, I will clarify that then. Alright, so with that said, here we go. So, to be clear here, WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, excellent shows. Love them both. with that said, just watching one episode of Loki, I already love this show more than those other two shows. Why? Because one of my favorite things about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that it feels, even from the beginning, even in phase 1, it felt limitless. Like anything could happen, any character could show up. This show perfectly embodies that. And then on top of that, we are exploring a character that even though he talks a lot, he doesn't really say much about himself. We don't really know deep down how Loki feels and why he does the things that he does. We have theories, like the ones that I gave during the intro of this video, but we've never heard it from him. And here we are going into this deep dive, this character study of one of the most complex and fascinating characters of the franchise. And the fact that they're taking the time to do this is very admirable and cool. And also the fact that a show that is about time travel, that you can jump and skip forward and move around wherever you want, takes its time and has really good pacing, is amazing. It's freaking perfect. So they're literally taking Loki out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, out of the timeline that we know, that's intact, that's the way we know it. They're pulling him out. He's seen the highlights, he's seen how basically the rest of his trajectory will go through phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And he's taking a long look at himself and his choices and figuring out. He knows where his desires, his machinations, his plans, his scheming will take him. He knows it. So we're about to see what Loki does with that information. For the first time in his life, he knows for sure that his attitude, his methods will fail. So what the hell does Loki do with that information? Will he be a good guy? Will he be a bad guy? We don't know, but it's fascinating, and I can't wait to see more. One of the highlights in this episode, of course, was the animated segment that explains the Time Variant Authority and what they do and how they do it. This, of course, includes the mascot of the Time Variant Authority, Miss Minutes, who last night before I watched the episode, I found out that is played by none other than Tara Strong. That's right, Tara Strong is in the two greatest, she is a part of the two greatest comic book adaptation franchises of all time. She is part of the DCAU as Batgirl, and she is part of the MCU as Miss Minutes, which is awesome. And she's not only like the big time voice actor to be a part of the Disney Plus streaming shows, both Grey Delisle and Carrie Walgren voiced two of the different commercials on WandaVision, which is awesome. So suffice it to say, Sarah Haley Finn, the casting director of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not only has impeccable taste in on-camera talent, but she also has excellent taste when it comes to voice talent. So again, Sarah, good job casting all these shows and movies. Keep up the good work, and so excited that Tara Strong is this character. So much so that if I ever meet Tara Strong at a convention and she has photos of all her characters, if Miss Minutes is one of those pictures, that's probably the one I'm going to want autographed, because this is amazing. On the subject of the cast, lots of great people already on the show, but they were not kidding when the promotional material focused a lot on Mobius, played by Owen Wilson. He is excellent as this character. He does come across as somebody who is very much a trickster himself, which may explain the reason why he has faith in Loki, why he relates to Loki the way we do. Why he would even entertain the idea of using Loki to hunt Loki. Now, and here's the thing, what the hell does that mean? Is this another time variant? Is this a duplicate of Loki? What happened there? Is he a clone? Is he a robot? Like, that was something that was mentioned earlier in the show. Life model decoy. Life model decoys are running around, and the Time Variant Authority has precautions against these. So if that's a recurring problem, could somebody have seen Loki and duplicated him as a robot or as a clone or something like that, and put him back into the timeline, since now Loki has been taken out? What does it mean? I don't know. I don't want to offer up any more ridiculous theories, quite frankly. I just want to watch the show and enjoy it. It seems like this is going to be a show where they're going to take chances. It's going to be weird. It's going to be high concept. And so far, that's my favorite part. The fact that this time travel duplicate of this character, whose history we know, was taken out of the timeline and is now going to be reinserted into the timeline to hunt himself, who is probably going to ruin the timeline. So the possibility, and again, this might change by the end of the show, but the possibility that the same character who is the protagonist is the antagonist as well is awesome. And if that's the case, if Loki has to take on Loki, throughout this series, then honestly, I couldn't have it any other way. It's kind of like Doctor Who, where the Master killed the Master. It's just perfect. There wouldn't be a better end to it. The second best end would be if, at the end of this show, if Phil Coulson would just show up and just kill Loki. Just skewer him with the Mind Scepter. One way or another, I will say this on a side note. I would absolutely love it if Clark Gregg did some kind of an actual cameo, not just footage from the movies, but an actual cameo in this. I think every MCU fan who watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were just hoping for there to be a scene where where Phil Coulson finally interacted with Loki one more time, had one more encounter before the show was over. It never happened. I feel like this is the last time that we have a chance for this to happen. I'm glad that Phil Coulson was addressed, because he is an important part of Loki's history, but I would really, really, really want for Clark Gregg to make an appearance on this show. Hopefully it'll happen. Absolutely loved how Loki turned out to be D.B. Cooper. If you don't know who D.B. Cooper is, look him up. Look up the history of this weird heist that happened during a commercial flight. It's one of the greatest legends in American history. The fact that they're implying that he was also responsible for all these little weird incidences in history, including the D.B. Cooper one, is really cool, and I hope there's more along the way.
I can't believe you were D.B. Cooper. Come on.
I was young and I lost a bet to Thor.
Lots of really good moments in this episode, in spite of the fact that it was largely made up of conversation. It was a very Kevin Smith, Quentin Tarantino-y episode, where it was mostly the characters just having long talks. But one of my absolute favorite visual moments, the perfect metaphor for Loki's life and career in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is when he goes to recover the Tesseract and he opens the drawer and it's just full of Infinity Stones and all these powerful items, and they're worthless. Which is the perfect metaphor for Loki's efforts. It's, at the end of the day, he still meets with Thanos on that ship and he dies no matter what he does. Every effort he's ever put forth leads to failure. He loses to Thor, he loses to the Avengers, he dies at the hands of Thanos, he gets smashed by Hulk. And there he is. In that moment, he realizes that, and it's painful. He even realizes that at one point in his timeline, he will try to get back at Thor in the most petty way possible, and it will lead to the death of his mother. And it doesn't really sink in until he's in that room and he looks around every desk and they're using Infinity Stones and all these powerful items from the Marvel Cinematic Universe as paperweights. And that's brilliant. That's just brilliant fucking writing. That's the kind of writing that makes me feel like the right people are in charge of this franchise. And that's what I'm looking forward to seeing more of. Seeing Loki come to these realizations, come to this understanding of who he is and what his place was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what he's going to do with that knowledge. Now, the question that everybody has in their minds, who is the true big bad in this series? Who is the mysterious hooded figure that sets the time variant authority agents on fire during the epilogue of this episode? Now, it's easy to just say, oh, well, we were just told the big bad is Loki himself, some kind of a duplicate of Loki. But who is the mysterious figure in the hood? It's Mephisto, obviously. No. Please stop saying that Mephisto's gonna be in these shows. He's not in these shows. Please stop. Unlike WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I will not offer up any kind of theories as to who the big bad is, who the threat is. I'm just gonna let it play out this time. It's silly to do this. We were doing this because we were starved for MCU content, from Marvel Studios content for a whole year. Well, we got nothing. This year we're getting 10. We're too excited. We're overcomplicating it. This time around, I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to take it in and enjoy it. Like I said, one episode in, I'm already loving this show more than the other two, even though they were great. So I'm just going to let them tell me who this mysterious hooded figure is. If it's Loki, that's great. If it's a big-time Marvel character, even better. But we'll see. So those are my thoughts on the premiere episode of Loki on Disney+. If you agree, disagree, feel free to say so in the comment section below. But please, as per usual, my only request is that you will be civil with one another. And now to address the fact whether or not I will be talking about the show when it's over, and where and when I will be doing that. I have promised you guys honest reviews in the past, and unfortunately I haven't been able to deliver because life sucks. Alright, it's plain and simple. I just don't have the time to make these videos. So I'm finally going to address this, and I'm going to try to fix it as best as I can. It won't be as good as honest reviews, but it's the best I can do for now. What I will be doing is a series of videos called The State of the Universe. They will be on my Patreon page. They will be unscripted, just like this one, in which I will share my thoughts on the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 4. And the first video in this series will deal with WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Loki. Yes, I will talk about those three shows as a whole. I will not go into every detail. I will not talk about every single character. I will not talk about every single episode. What I will do is I will address each show as a whole and what they could potentially mean as pieces of Phase 4 and what they could potentially lead to and what they contributed to this phase of the franchise. My second video in that series, my second video on the State of the Universe, Part 2, will solely be focused on Black Widow. That's right, I'm going to do just one where it's just focusing on that movie by itself. But I want to start it with addressing just this whole induction of the world of streaming into the Marvel Cinematic Universe officially. Something we thought we were going to get with the Marvel Netflix shows, but they never really truly connected with the movies. These three shows are 100% connected to the movies. They use clips from the movies, they use scenes from the movies, they take stuff that has happened in the movies and let that drive the plots of these shows. So it's time to address this as part of the universe and what it implies to it. So there you go. That's what I'm going to do with that. So the next question on your mind, if you're not a patron, is how do I see these videos? Very easy. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/ERod and pledge $1. That's it. $1 helping me continue to produce the Blockbuster Buster, and in return, you get bonus videos, which include my ERod on Black Lightning, the final season. If you want to hear my final thoughts on the great CW series, Black Lightning, starring Cress Williams, produced by Salim Akil, all you have to do is become a patron. As per usual, guys, thank you so much for your support, because I could not do what I do without you, and I hope that, like Loki, like me, you are burdened with glorious purpose.